Guys, it's Brett Burns with the Prepared Man and the In the Bush Challenge. I'm out here kind of tooling around in the yard today, and I'm going to show you the container challenge that Talon posted. How I'm going to sanitize water for drinking 5 different ways. So I've got a little bit of a kit here. I'll show you on the wood pile. This is all the kit that I'm going to use to show you 5 different ways. So some of these ways are a little non-traditional. You'll have to look over the dog barking. She barks every breath that she draws. So just kind of look over, stick with me. Okay guys, these are my basic kit pieces. These are things that I carry quite a bit with the addition of Tomahawk. My Tomahawk will get the most use today as a kneeling rest to keep out of the mud. Inside I have a couple pieces of kit that I actually always keep in my meal kit, and this little bag always stays in my main pack. The first thing I want to talk to you about is my filtration kit, which is one way to sanitize water. I use the Sawyer Mini. It's good for 100,000 gallons of water supposedly, and it's a 0.1 micron absolute hollow fiber membrane water filter. Now what that means is there's a series of tubes in there, and they're all stacked together just like this, like a handful of straws. And those tubes are so small that the relatively small water molecules fit through and bacteria won't. You know, bacteria is not round. It's typically not as small as water molecules, and they actually won't pass through because this is 0.1 microns. So what I would do is I'll fill this bag with dirty water, attach this, and actually push out clean water into my Nalgene or into one of my various and sundry containers. I also carry Oasis water tablets. Very nice water tablets. They're 8.5 milligram NADCC. These are military issue in the British military. Expiration date of 2018. A couple of things I like about them is you can see that they are individually wrapped. That expiration date is really handy. It's right there. Now these are not waterproof, so you want to keep them inside a container, but I use these quite a bit. So let's kind of get a couple of setups that I've used before to sanitize water, and we'll go from there. Stick with me. First thing you really need to do is designate something your clean water vessel. Now I have a couple of containers here. This is going to be my clean water vessel. This of course will be the vessel that I boil in. So now I need a dirty water collection vessel. And I carry a few with me. I'm actually going to use that Sawyer envelope that comes with it and that Ziploc bag to collect dirty water. So let's go down to the creek, and I'm going to show you how to collect water in probably one of the more effective ways. Okay, this is going to be the first method that... Okay, this is going to be the first method that I'll show you. This is going to be just basic solar pasteurization. Now, just like we pasteurize milk, we actually don't have to boil water to sanitize it. Once water reaches a certain temperature, it starts to kill microbes and bacteria. For instance, those polycysts, those cysts that contain bacteria in water that are resistant to heat, are much more susceptible to long-range heat at around 130 degrees than they are at 212. So what I've done is I've used my clear Ziploc bag. I'm actually going to flip it over to the clear side to maximize the amount of sun. Now on a bright sunny day, and as you can see, this is February, we don't have a bright sunny day, or if we were close to the equator, this water would actually get incredibly hot. A couple of things that I suggest is raising it up off the ground, because anytime you're out, the ground is going to be cooler than the air unless it's just strange meteorological conditions. And we're trying to get it around 130, 150 degrees, and that should kill quite a bit of bacteria as well as dissolve those cysts and kill the bacteria therein. So this would be pasteurization. That's my first method of sanitizing water. And then we're going to make a couple of modifications to this. I'm going to show you how to set up a solar still that is actually more effective than an in-ground still. So just stick with me and we'll come on to... Okay guys, this is a little solar still that I've set up. I've actually used this setup before with great success. And all you got to do is just fill this Ziploc bag up with air, a little bit of water, and you put your cup inside, place a couple rocks on the top. Now it works just like your textbook solar stills, but in lower temperatures, like where I'm at, where the ground is actually just a few degrees above freezing, this actually allows more airflow and more heat to get to the water itself. Now I've got maybe an inch of water in the bottom of this. Probably if I filled it up, maybe a third of a cup, a half a cup. But this is something I could set up passively. As you can see, the steam is already building up around this from my breath. That'll condense as well. And it's just like distilled water. It's going to raise up, hit this incline around this. You just want to make sure that your plastic bag isn't touching your cup, because the water's just going to fall back in. But with a little tweaking, this is a very viable solar still with more access to sun than just a hole dug in the top. And you're not going to let your water get away underground. You're not going to leach or lose heat to convection. This is actually a really nice setup. So this is my little solar still. We're going to leave this set up for a little while and we'll come back to it. Now, a couple of things that I suggest when you're collecting water to filter or to disinfect. Now, a couple of things that I suggest when you're collecting water to disinfect chemically is to make sure that you have the right amount for your tablets. These tablets do 1 quart of water. This Nalgene does 1,000 milliliters or 1 liter. Now those numbers are just a very small amount off, but what I do just to be on the safe side, when we fill with 32 ounces, which is technically your standard, I'll just dash some out, because it's not going to hurt me for it to be a little extra disinfected. Now, a couple things I want to show you. This water has been setting for a while. Now I have this water supposedly disinfected. The first thing you need to do is you need to hold it upside down, and you need to untwist the cap just until you've got water dripping around the cap. And the reason being is you're disinfecting all that water that's around the lip of that bottle as well. And that's going to wash it out and put clean water in it. So if you had debris or any little bacteria, it's going to run out. And this should be safe, sanitized water from my Oasis tablet that I just dropped in, shook it up, and left it. The website says leave it 30 minutes. I'd leave it sitting an hour, hour and a half. I mean, if you're going to thirst to death in an hour and a half, you've already waited too long. So that's sanitizing water chemically. That's our third method. And our fourth method. So far we've covered our solar still, we've covered pasteurization, we've covered chemical cleaning. Up next we're going to do boiling and filtration. So stick with me. Alrighty guys, up next is filtration. I filled my Sawyer squeeze the same way I talked to you about before, going opposite the way of the stream. I actually had to blow air into this before I done it, because they do collapse. And all I'm going to do is screw my filter onto it, and it will actually work as a squeeze filter. So let's set him up here. Take a look, make sure I don't have the stopper on there. Should thread right on there. It'll also thread on standard bottles. One thing I've noticed is I had a little bit of trouble with some bottles that I have used, but most bottles it'll thread up with. You pop the top, and here's going to come out clean water. Check this out. There it comes. High rate of flow. Water tastes clean because there's no chemicals. This is a mechanical filter. So that's perfectly drinkable water. A couple of tips I have is just to start at the bottom and roll it as you go, kind of like people do their toothpaste, and you'll get more liquid out of it, and you can actually push water harder. So that's a Sawyer squeeze system. If you're camping below zero and you're using a Sawyer squeeze, don't leave it in your pack. Don't leave it in your mess kit at night, especially after you've used it, because there'll be water in it. Put it right in your sleeping bag with you. Put it in your pocket. Do something like that. Cram it in a Ziploc bag and put it inside where your body heat can keep it warm. Or you're going to freeze it, and those actual little tiny tubes in there are going to crack It's going to act exactly the same, but it's not filtering anymore because those little micron tubes will crack as water freezes and expands in them. So there you go. That's one thing I've learned through research. Guess what, guys? It's time to boil water. So we're going to set up. Talon is wanting us to do some primitive fire, so we're going to set up and do a flint and steel fire for you with some dried grass and things like that for our bird's nest. And we're going to get a fire going and boil some water. So just kind of stick with me. This will take a few minutes because it's rained here and snowed here for the last 4 weeks, so we've kind of got a mess. So just stick with me. Now I've just come up on this bank. Unfortunately, we've got some garbage and some plastic around. We also have all this nice grass, and this is what I'm looking for, what they call sawgrass around here. I'm going to pull that for part of my bird's nest. I'm actually going to pull all this because it's a nuisance weed anyway. And then I'm going to come back and kind of flesh it out with all this dry grass. Get me a bird's nest going, and then I'll prep my fire. So now I have my makings of a bird's nest. I'm going to go set up a fire. This would actually go into a pouch, into my pocket or something, just to keep it out of the elements, keep it from blowing away. But since we're just setting up a demo, I'm going to go set up a fire real quick, make some feather sticks, and I'll actually set up and show me lighting the fire using flint and steel, just to make everybody happy. So stick with me. Okay guys, I'm fixing to light my fire with flint and steel. Trying to keep everything up off the ground. I do want to show you just how easy it is. This is my bird's nest that I've created with locally supplied stuff. I've just got it in just keep it from soaking up moisture. And I'm going to go collect some wood just to build a kind of a table to set my fire on, so it's not drawing moisture and losing heat to the ground. We'll get a fire going. So here in just a moment, I'll set you up for a good angle and get flint and steel started. Okay guys, I've got everything set up. Like I said, I'm going to use my Hawk as a kneeling platform, and we're going to build our fire right here. So let's get us a lay going out, just a flat place to get my fire up off the ground. That's not sucking moisture. Got all that. Got some primary sticks to get everything started. Got my flint and steel kit all laid out. Got a nice fresh piece of charcoal that I made just the other night, actually right after doing another video for this challenge. And I'm going to use a lot just because it's easy to make. I could start it with a solar power if this wasn't February, but it's February, so I'm going to double it over, place it on top of my rock. Man, I broke the piece off. There we go. Let me quarter this. Put my little coal right down in my nest, and couple of things I can use just to kind of speed this along is some fat wood that I keep in a separate little tin just in case I need it. I'll go ahead and throw that on as well. If the wind would cooperate with me, I'd have fire, but we've got flame. Could be worse. Fire can can easily go out at this point. Now, in an effort for full disclosure, I'm going to leave that running while I break up some more tinder here. One jack. I'm just off camera here breaking up sticks. Let me tell you something about the eastern woodlands for those of you that aren't from around here. That wood is incredibly easy to find. So carry it in your pack, carry a little bit in your belt pouch. I had that little piece, oh boy, I think I put it in there before the last one of these challenges, so I've had it a long time. Now, I don't carry a char tin in my belt pouch simply because moving around so much is just death on the actual char material. But I do carry all that little pre-made tinder. Yeah, wind, work with me instead of against me. That'd be good. Just a little fire going. I've still got a while before I'm going to put my pot on. Things I suggest about a pot when you're boiling water. First thing is I do not suggest stainless. A lot of people do, but just science tells us that aluminum conducts heat better. So an aluminum pot is great. I'm actually going to use a stainless pot today just because it's the pot that I've been carrying. But it's my cool little tins, by the way. If I had an ideal pot just for boiling water, it would be an aluminum Morse pot. And I do carry one of those quite a bit. But here lately, in an effort to lighten my load, I've been carrying this little seagull pot. Also, when we start talking about primitive fire, I suggest to everybody that I know that you get good at it, and it's just like a bow drill kit. Get a tried and true kit. Mine came from Francis Kirk, is who made my fire steel. I highly recommend him if you can get a hold of one of them second hand or get him to make you one. I think they're the best steels on the market, and he's reasonable as well. So I don't want to move my little fledgling coal bed around too much. Let that get caught up. I kind of loosely pile those up. When that catches up, I should be able to boil water. So. Get a little flint and steel fire. And I love flint and steel. If you run around with me, you'll very rarely see me use a ferro rod. I don't know. It's a little gimmicky. I like the idea that with flint and steel, with the right rock, I could do it with even the most fundamental materials. I don't have to have anything special. Don't have to have anything commercial. Even though, yeah, I had a guy make my steel for me. I had it made, or actually a friend had it made and gifted it to me. Brandon Smith had it made. He gifted them to us, but you know, you can make those at home with the knowledge, and it's actually not that hard. I've made them before. Actually, I made you guys one on video and used it, if I remember correctly. Now what I'm going to do, and this is especially something I would do in extremely cold weather, I'm going to take my pot with my unsanitary water in it and put it next to the fire and let it heat, and then I'll put it on top of the fire here in a moment. Now, another thing you'll notice is my pot is not completely full. The issue being is as soon as you get it boiling, it's not ready to drink, contrary to popular belief. So you kind of want to let it boil a while, and if it's absolutely full, it will boil over and put your fire out. So I'm going to set it right up against the fire, and as my fire burns down, I'll move it over into the fire. So you guys can just kind of watch this bad boy burn here for a minute. And I just washed that pot too, so that'll be another trip through to clean my pot up. Sorry about the shaky camera movements. I've kind of rigged a camera stand here. Now my goal is to let my fire burn down and set my pot on top of it, and then I have some support tinder that I'm going to put around it. So this is actually going to go around to further my fire. Since we're done with the solar steel, there's a few drops of water in there, believe it or not. On a cold day like this, since we're done, I'm just going to use this gallon Ziploc as a drier surface to put my wood on. So like I said, this fire can go out in a heartbeat, just from the cold in the ground. These are a couple of other things that are good for starting fire. Good light. Hollow cord weeds. This is mullein, I believe. But you just break it down like this. Just kind of set it in your fire. It'll burn pretty easy. It smokes a lot, but it will burn pretty easy if you need to keep your fire going and hold heat. And I actually don't use it as a tinder, but I put it on the windward side just like that to keep the fire from blowing out when it's small. So I've preheated my water, just trying to keep it warm, because it is a cold day, relatively cold, 50 degrees. So if I raise that water to 80 degrees before I ever put it on the fire, I'm going to use less fuel to make it boil. Now I'd love for you to go ahead and get on my YouTube channel and on our series actually read over the sanitation of water, or watch over the sanitation of water. My good friend and fellow instructor Jason Jackson does a great job talking about boiling water for sanitation. I almost exclusively boil, but we also follow our prepared man method. We don't follow the idea that as soon as it's doing a roll and boil, it's ready to drink. I suggest you don't either. But to each their own. We actually have access to a biologist who could help us a little bit with information. Water's not boiling, but it is warm. You can kind of hear it sizzling a little bit on the side of my pan. And I'm just going to let my fire do the work. I'm going to go gather some more tinder just in case I need it. I want to talk to you briefly about things you can do to raise the efficiency of a wood fire. So far, in volume wise, for my little MSR there, I've used about 4 times in volume the space of wood. So you see how big it is. I've used about 4 times that in wood, just heating this water. Ways you can raise that efficiency would be to use something like an Emberlit stove, which I actually don't own. But you can raise that efficiency by using a heat screen or something that the wind is not going to blow your heat away. So keep that in mind as well. Got a car passing. Let's see what we got. It's not boiling yet, I can hear it. So, here comes another vehicle. There you go, guys. Just uncovered it. We've got a rolling boil now. CDC. The water has actually slowed down a little bit. That water is now safe to drink. So, this is Brett Burns in the Bush Challenge. Once again, this has been our 5 ways to make water safe to drink. I've done a boil, a solar still, pasteurization, physical filter, which was the Sawyer Mini, and chemical sanitation, which was my Oasis Mini tabs that are issued in the British military. So once again, this is Brett Burns with Prepared Man in the Bush Challenge. Come on, guys, let's see what you got.